Hey guys, so I don't know if you knew this, but we got a 30% sale on at the minute.
Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, pew,
30% off sale.
Site-wide, you just use the code.
Running
it's
to
on
the end of May, so
you do have plenty of time. You do
we
have
have a lot of news as
got
well.
a
So
ton.
if you haven't been on for a while, go out and check.
Also, models. Now we do print order, so they're not going to go out of stock. However, we do have limited stock of the gas station and Steelwater. Steelwater, I will do another reprint of. However, the gas station, once it is gone, it is gone. We're never doing that again. It was a one-off thing, and these are just leftovers.
If you want it, go get it.
If you're not interested, I don't know. I thought it was a fun project. I really enjoyed it. But look, let's jump into this one. So
this is a bit of a story time, which we haven't done in a while.
Yeah, originally I was more interested in the thread, but then I was going through it and I was like, oh, right, there's actually kind of interesting story time, so we're going to do the story time in the thread instead. But how does the thread start?
The Infernal contract. The old deal. Superpowers for eternal damnation. The whole Faustian Pact thing usually doesn't come up often in my games. But I'm curious, has anyone had a PC who took up a similar offer? I mean like the Dark Fate flaws from World of Darkness, where you're guaranteed a bad end no matter what.
So literally every warlock ever. Well, in 5e anyway. But look, this guy writes a full story. I think it's actually pretty fun, so we're just going to jump right into that. I will preface, I have done it once. I was playing Eivor, the wizard. It was in the Name of the Frost Maiden. I didn't really sell my soul, but I kind of did. Actually, you know what? I did it twice. I actually did do it twice. Everyone knows about Gobby and the Lich. Like, it was a bit smooth talking. It will remind you of, do you remember the Mummy movies? Do you remember, what do you call the wee fella?
The one with the hat?
Yeah, and he's like, and then he's like, oh, the language of the slaves. It's like, yeah, that was kind of Gobby. That was exactly what happened. We got we tried to go up against the Lich, and there was only 3 of us, for God's sake. You know what I mean? Two of them being me and Megan, for fuck's sake, and the autistic Frenchman. Jeez, we didn't stand a chance. And then he was like, why did you do this? Like, well, someone had to get us out of that bother, right, guys? It's not my fault.
Right, let's jump into this story.
Alright, yeah, sure, let's go for it.
Running a heavily modified version of Pick Related for a part consisting of Gold Dragonborn Hexblade with the MacGuffin sword as his patron. Has a strong sense of justice, but not an ounce of mercy to spare for anyone who wrongs him. Female human monk with mobile feet. An absolute monster in combat, but the most grounded and reasonable character in roleplay. High Elf Bard. Loyal to his companions, but narcissistic to the point where he'll viciously mock allies who he feels have personally slighted him. It's a long story, but one of these 3 already made a deal with an incubus before they even left Baldur's Gate. I'll let you guess which PC did the deed while I type up the story.
Oh, come on, it's definitely the Dragonborn. He's got the MacGuffin sword. It's the Dragonborn. If it's not the Dragonborn...
a strong sense of justice.
I think it's the Dragonborn.
I don't know, could be the Bard.
I wouldn't put it past the Bard. And I wouldn't put it past... Well, you know, human...
I don't know. That's
like, my money's on Dragonborn. If I'm wrong, I don't know. I was going to say I'd eat my dick, but like, that's not going to happen. I'll put a shoe on my head. Alright? That's the deal. Shoe on head. How does that sound, guys? Let's do this.
First, some general background info of the party. 2 years ago, there was a shady wizard who lived like a recluse in his mansion. No one ever saw his face because he never appeared in public. But over the course of a couple of months, he started sending out invites to lavish private parties at his place.
Did he go by the name of Jeffrey?
The recipients were seemingly random women from across town. From nobles to barmaids to housewives. No one who attends one of these parties is ever seen again. It's
the fucking Dragonborn, guys.
Each of the PCs lost a loved one to that manner before the owners suddenly disappeared without a trace. The Flaming Fists, essentially military police, opened an investigation into the manor, which resulted in the place getting locked down for public safety reasons, with no real information on the case related to the public. Can I just say, what a real loser name for police, the Flaming Fists. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Flaming Fists. Also, did the wizard did he die in prison or something under the watch of the Flaming Fists? Or they just got another way or something?
PCs created a kind of support group with some other victims' relatives where they try to help each other cope with their losses. This, however, quickly turned into a conspiracy group where the members plot to break into the abandoned manor to figure out what happened themselves. Consequences be damned. Break-in attempt fucks up and alerts the Fist to the group's existence, though they still don't know any names or faces as of yet. PCs get separated from the rest of the group, plan to reconvene at their usual rendezvous point, which is literally just a house owned by one of the members. They show up to find the building ablaze, and clothing remnants from the other group members, bloody occult symbols lining the floor and wall. No bodies are found, but it's clear these people died a horrible death. PCs separate after this. The soon-to-be Hexblade leaves town altogether, only to return after making contact with his patron. The others live alone in hiding until the Fist conclude there are no survivors. They meddled with forces we cannot understand and paid the price. The perimeter fence around the manor is reinforced, but no further break-in attempts are made. Game begins 2 years later. I'll skim through the basic plot from here. PCs reunite in Baldur's Gate following the disappearance of its neighbour city, El Turl, and all
You know
its
what? I'll say it
inhabitants.
again. People complained at me because I said no one cares about Forgotten Realms, and they're like, actually, I like Forgotten Realms. It's like, well, you're wrong. Your opinions are bad, guys, okay?
A wave of cultist violence and kidnappings is swept across the city, and the Fist's hands are tied with telling all the ethereal refugees, fuck off, we're full. PCs are drafted into the Fists to find the cult's hideout, cleared out, and then investigate any possible allies/connections they might have. While trying to find this hideout, the group accidentally gets into a confrontation with a gang owned by the mob, which ends up with the Hexblade smashing their boss's brains into a brick wall until he stops moving. Shortly after, this group meets the DMPC, a fighter who claims to be a fictional character from a century-old folk song, but is really just messed up in the head. Now, I know DMPCs are a red flag in TG, and with good reason, but I can confidently say I've never fallen into the traps that other GMs have, and mine are generally well received by the group, and vice versa when they run games. I can elaborate in any other post if you don't want to take my word for it. Finally, they track down the cult hideout and wipe it out, only to learn that they're connected to one of the most influential noble families in the city, which even has a seat on the running council of 4.
Good evening, Mr.
Shut up! The evidence is too insubstantial to get the Fists involved. Plus, Jim, stop laughing. Plus, no one knows how many of them are in this family's pocket.
They do not know.
The family's address is public knowledge, but the party opts to investigate how deep this connection goes before trying anything as drastic as breaking into their house. Guess they learned their lesson from 2 years ago. I should mention that the fighter bloke is dressed like a cross between Zorro and Dick Turnip. Turnip.
Turnip. Can we just call him Dick Turnip?
Turnip.
Dick Bendy Knob. Zorro Bendy Knob Baggins.
Complete with a complete with a
Stretch Armstrong bandage.
Stop it.
Alright, okay.
Complete with a blue masquerade mask from a costume store. After getting knocked out in a particularly nasty cult encounter, the bard removes his mask out of curiosity. It's someone from their old conspiracy group. In fact, this is the guy who initially pushed for searching the manor at the time. He definitely didn't go around acting like Zorro back then. As the game continues, he starts growing more attached to the PCs as they seem somehow familiar to him. Basically, the idea is that this guy witnessed what happened to the other members and blames himself for getting them, and presumably the PCs, killed. This vigilante persona is like a foggy? Something state to him?
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
I get that. I get what he means.
I get it. The PCs are just about to try capturing and interrogating the son of the noble family when, oh shit, wanted posters with the fighter's masked face are plastered around town. Turns out the big mob boss despises Vigilante and isn't too happy that one has gotten involved with the group who killed a bunch of their goons. Through a series of negotiations with the different neighbourhoods' mob connection, the PCs manage to gain an audience with the kingpin. Obviously the fighter does not go with him. Boss offers to forgive the party for their transgressions and calls off the bounty on their friend if they take care of a different vigilante group called the Dandies.
May as well call them the Pifters. The Dandies.
And the Flaming Fists. Who have been causing problems for the mob in the bougie part of town. They all carry fencing swords and wear the same flower pin and they meet up in the Smiling Boar Tavern. I don't care how you do it, just see that it gets done. The party are obviously hesitant, so the boss reveals she knows about their old conspiracy group, and not so subtly threatens to leak that info to the Fist. When you think about it, there's no way the cops would believe a bunch of gangsters claiming to have new evidence, tying the party to a 2-year-old case. But merely revealing the boss knew about their past was enough to make the players more intimidated than I expected.
You see, this is where it would happen, where if I was playing in that, the person would get dunked in a bucket of acid.
Like, fucking do it.
What are you going to do about it? You know what? Tell you what.
Do it.
Do you want me to use control water for waterboarding? That's all I'm going to say. Do you want me to see once you get the NPC kind of like intimidate, it's like, hold up. Hold up.
The trio deliberate between themselves and accept the boss's terms. They meet back up with the fighter and plan out the raid on the dandies, neglecting to fully explain the situation to him. At this point, the fighter recognises the 3 PCs as his only real friends who should be protected at all costs. In his delusional mind, the PCs are friends of justice, and therefore, whatever choices they make, no matter how wrong they may seem, must be the correct path. He has subconsciously defended justice as whatever my friends are doing, and not the other way around, unbeknownst to the players themselves. Now, my players are smart to the point where I can place them in tough situations like these with the confidence that they'll figure out a solution that even I might not have thought of. I fully expect them to not go along with the boss's deal and instead come up with a plan for opposing the mob.
Yeah, see, that's what I would have done with a bucket of acid.
Yeah. Or at least working around this bounty as they go about their business in the city. I was not at all expecting what came next. So, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a website with lots of models. And whenever I say lots of models, I mean lots of models. We've got models for any setting that you can think of. With humans with biddies, animals that shouldn't have biddies but do have biddies, dwarves and elves with biddies. Look, we've got a lot of smut models. But it doesn't stop there. We really do have models for anything and everything. And to be honest, they look so good. Chef's kiss, so good. But it's not all smut for all you good Christian Minecraft server players. We've got you covered. And we even got the weebs covered too, which is unusual for this channel because we don't like weebs.
The weebs aren't that bad. They're just fun to laugh at.
We also have 5th edition subclasses and adventures, which some of them are free for download, and we sell a physical printed copy of Steel Water as well, and you can request a signed version if that's your thing, where I'll draw a penis on it for you.
If you want us to sign a couple decks, we'll give you decks, okay, guys? That's what
anyway,
we want.
If you enjoy what we do here, go ahead and check out the website. It helps us out so much, and we don't need to worry about our YouTube overlord striking down another one of our channels. Our website is also now available as an app on Android. Also, and the winner of the daily giveaway is this guy! Yay! Woo!
Look, anyway, in for a chance to win, all you gotta do is like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, automatically entered in.
And to claim the prize, you just send an email to neckbeardiacontact@gmail.com. Let's go back to the video. In an earlier encounter, the party disarmed an Alchemist Fire trap and managed to get their hands on 4 barrels of the stuff. Up until now, they've been gathering dust in the bard's basement. On the night after their meeting with the mob boss, the party gathers the barrels and brings them to the tavern where the dandies hold their weekly meeting. The monk picks the lock on the front door, and the hexblade sneaks in with 1 barrel at a time as the others keep watch. It's a slow task.
That's alright.
It's a slow task, but he was determined not to share any of the blame or guilt for what was about to happen. He pushes aside the large round table from the centre of the room, lifts up the floorboards and lays the barrels on their side and crawl space beneath before sliding the table back into place. He lays a trail of lamp oil from under the table to a spot in the adjacent alleyway. Then the 4 of them find a vantage point on the rooftops to hide on the following morning. I describe the tavern filling up with people and families before the dandies make their scheduled appearance. I make a point to do this in detail because I want to give the players as much time as they needed to change their mind. If they went through with this, there would be no way to claim I rushed them into the decision. The monk watches the dandies take their seats, then signals to the hexblade before moving to a safe distance. From his vantage point, the eldritch blasts the lamp oil trail and then instantly missteps away. After several seconds, the tavern is consumed by a green fireball that blows a hole in the roof and sets fire fire to everything within a 20-foot radius of the epicenter. People had started running when they saw the trail of fire, so the only group at the centre table were close enough to the barrels to die into the force alone.
RA mixed with Gunpowder Night, what do you call it?
Oh, Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes, yeah. Pretty much, yeah, something like that.
For anyone who isn't aware, including my players at the time, Alchemist Fire is not primarily an explosive. It is an incendiary alchemical substance which is designed to spread its near inextinguishable flame as quickly and as easily as possible. The barrels are compacted so tightly that the pressure alone was enough to create an explosion that killed the closest victims instantly. But the people further away from the epicenter weren't so lucky. Cue the white phosphorus scene from Spec Ops.
I tried to get you to play that game. It's not, like, it's quite a good game, but I feel like you know what, this video is not talking about Spec Ops The Line.
People are screaming and trying to claw their way to safety while covered in green flames or bleeding out further inside and choking on the smoke. Hexblade has already left the scene, choosing to head to the seediest bar he could find on the edge of town and blocking out his thoughts with booze. He doesn't know what's going on until the bard finds him passed out in counter that night. The bard rushes to every injured civilian he can find and mercy kills them with his sword one by one. The monk and fighter are just frozen in place in complete shock.
I didn't mean to kill everyone. I just planted explosives, guys.
Sorry.
I
didn't know what was going to happen.
Just because I put nails in it didn't mean I didn't expect that to happen.
The cognitive
dissonance.
Dissonance?
Cognitive dissonance.
Okay, of whatever path my friends take as justice, and dear God, this shit is fucked, is pushing the fighter's brain into complete standstill, while the monk latches onto the idea of comforting him as a method of blocking out everything else. The party reunite the following morning, don't say a single word about what happened, and then spend the next few days holed up in the monk's house doing nothing at all. The PCs reacted to that Tavern Fire incident in different ways. The Hexblade mentally took on all the responsibility himself, wanting to believe his companion's hands were clean, as he was the one who manually carried out the task. He's convinced that what they did was as necessary evil for protecting the fighter. I'm pretty sure that reasoning stems more from denial than his actual moral compass though. The shock led the fighter to his first lucid moment in the game so far, answering to his real name and finally expressing relief that the PCs weren't killed in the fire 2 years ago. Rather than believing in his fictional character persona, he no longer has any sense of identity at all, and his personalities fluctuate between the fake hero and the confused man beneath. He reasons that if the mob started sending bounty hunters after him, then his friends would give their lives in his defense, therefore going along with a plan that his way of protecting them instead. The bard doesn't even know what to think about what they've done, but continues to play his lute obnoxiously at every opportunity, because if I stop playing, I might start remembering. For context, this is the first serious line of roleplay dialogue he said all game. Finally, the monk carries the last denial out of everybody. She knows what they did was unforgivable, and the only thing stopping her from confessing to the fists is her reluctance to condemn her friend. So they just push on. Following a lead in the cemetery gets the party caught up in a gang war between the remnants of the cult that they've been fighting and the dragon worshipper. Turns out those pesky nobles funded the cult's growth using stolen gold from Tiamat's fucking hoard. This section is completely skippable, but results in the bard getting his hands on a scroll of etherealness. Now they have a means of getting into the noble's villa undetected. The etherealness scroll is a one-time use thing that has a time limit of a few hours. So the plan is for the bard to enter the ethereal plane, explore the villa, and then return home before the scroll wears off. The building itself doesn't seem out of the ordinary, but below it is a huge underground complex. Turns out this family has been at the head of the completely separate cult, which is devoted to Zariel, ruler of the first layer of hell and big bad evil guy of the campaign. Bard proceeds to explore every nook and cranny of the underground base, committing as much of the layout as possible to memory. Oh shit, a hidden altar accessible only by secret doors with the Duchess herself praying for the apocalypse. As the bard tries to make out what she's saying, I roll for a random encounter, as simply being present on the ethereal plane is enough to draw extra planar predators to your location. The table I made up has an option for outsider, in which I roll on a second table of potential travellers on the ethereal. I rolled a fucking incubus. Everything from here is 100% improv. I told you it was going to be the bard.
Oh.
I told you.
Alright, okay.
Going into more detail now that I'm finally contributing to this red topic. A sudden presence emerges from the ethereal space to attain the altar. It leaps behind the bard and lingers there, shifting to match his movements so it's always out of his field of vision. A hand on his shoulder. You're not supposed to be here, are you? Now our bard player, through no fault of his own, isn't that great at improv, though I'm not exactly a drama king myself. He plays this off to humorous effect by making his characters typically blunt and unapologetically violent. When a harmless gnome commoner throws a rotten tomato at him for dressing like a posh bellend, he casts vicious mockery and walks away until the other players successfully plead with him to heal the dude. When asked what insults do you use for the purpose of vicious mockery, he usually yells, I can't say this, C-E-N-T, with a little hesitation. And in case he answers the otherworldly being questions of, you're not supposed to be here, are you? By flatly saying, no, are you?
No, you. No, you're not supposed to. No.
He later told me he just had no idea what to say, but I love how accidentally badass his delivery was. Anyway, this is the point of the story. My example of how to pull off a good devil deal. The incubus starts off by acting cordial, trying to strike up a rapport with the bard and gradually lower his guard. Goes on to talk about how secrets are the clay upon which connections are formed. When you share a secret with another, you're sharing a bond that is more authentic and runs deeper than any paltry friendship. I find such bonds much more valuable than whatever I may get from tattling to these people. So your secret's safe with me. Proceeds to invite the bard on an exciting tour of the rest of the hideout. After all, I'm not supposed to be here either. The incubus finally shows himself properly to the bard, so that he would first notice its beautiful appearance at the moment of this seemingly innocuous offer. The bard says, yeah, alright, and they travel to a few more rooms where the incubus comments on the absurdity of the cultist worship. The Lady Zariel is great and terrible indeed, but there's no point in devoting yourself to someone and asking for nothing in return. Not even gods deserve such a one-sided relationship. This kind of comment implants the false idea that your devil believes deals should be mutually beneficial. Any offhanded statement like this is to make your players more receptive to making a contract is an opportunity worth taking, especially if you can mask it as the devil just making fun of morals zealotry. The incubus takes him to the cult's treasure room, where a powerful shield artifact with a fiendish appearance is kept. It talks about how the shield was a celestial artifact used to seal evil, but an angel was tricked into getting sealed inside instead. Each day's torment only grows more exquisite. Would it not be more thrilling to leave it here for eternity? A bit of reverse psychology. That shield actually contains a trapped pit fiend, and the incubus was curious about what it would do if the PC picked it up. The bard didn't seem to bite, however, so I just left that seed in the player's mind and changed topic. There's a point to showing you these treasures, my friend. How do you think those nobles came by it in the first place? Hard work? Sticking to their principles? Hell no. It's not just the money. It's all the things worth fighting for in life. You gotta fight for it, or you don't get it. Your future can be anything you want it to be, as long as you grasp it firmly with both hands. You gotta believe you have what it takes to make it reality. Pretty obvious what I'm doing here. Make your player think they're in control before a deal is even on the table. Grasp a hold of your future now, Lucius. Anything you can imagine is on the table if we would only make a deal. I tried to put an ominous incentive on that last word because it means your devil is now being honest about what it wants. The moment a player thinks, aha, I know what it's trying to do, is a moment where they feel like they're winning the battle of wit. That confidence might make them feel like they can force the devil into giving them a better deal, which is exactly what the devil wants them to think. The bard, Lucius is his name, I should probably start using that at some point, just says, sure. The scene shifts to within Lucius's headspace in the form of an empty theatre. He and the incubus are sitting across from each other at a candlelit table on the stage. The incubus asks him what he desires, saying the sky's the limit, and that he'll decide what the appropriate terms are based on the bard's answer. Lucius, and his player, can't think of what to ask for on the spot, so the incubus offers to show him what really happened to his wife, the person he lost 2 years ago, and the whole reason he met up with the party. This doesn't need to be our actual deal. Just think of it as a pro bono sweetener. I'd only require some superficial favour in return. A gesture, even. Lucius asks what I mean, so I elaborate. You must be intrigued to know the truth of that day, how she died, or even whether she really did die, or whether she's still out there somewhere for you to find. I can show you the truth. Then our actual deal can be regarded what you wish to do with that knowledge. Lucius, and what do I have to do? I borrowed an idea from the book here. Afterwards, I'll clue you in on another secret, an event that's due to occur in your future. All you have to do is let it happen. Don't try and stop it. Don't warn anyone else about it either. Just let it happen and we're solid. Finally, Lucius shows some skepticism. Is this other vision involving my wife as well? Not at all. I guarantee it would be completely unrelated. Is it going to make me stop doing the mission? I guarantee this knowledge will not hinder your ability to pursue your quest in any way. Lucius accepts. At this point, I had no idea what the future vision should be, so I let the player know I'll private message him after the session once I figured it out. We continue with the encounter under the assumption that Lucius did indeed see this vision, and the incubus was indeed honest about the above two statements. But first, the issue of his wife. The incubus shows Lucius a chamber of black metal surrounded by a scorched, rust-coloured wasteland fraught with sandstorm. His wife, as well as all the other women who disappeared inside that mansion, are naked and wrapped in chains, covered in scars, and so exhausted that they're barely aware of their surroundings. The incubus explains that Lucius and the rest of the party's loved ones were all taken to the first layer of hell as part of a sick contract between the mansion's owner and a pair of chained devils. He goes on to explain that chained devils are hell's torturers, and the only reason those women are still alive in human form is because their new masters have yet to grow bored of them.
Little Cenobites.
The players already knew this campaign involved going to hell, but now they have a personal stake and motivation to go there. We ended the session to continue this in private later, but not before the Bard's player asked the incubus for his name. I regret to say I sat there for a good few minutes trying to think of something good.
Random generator.
Yeah.
Demon random generator name, or just use Belial, or Baal, or Morlock, or, what's the one from Pazuzu?
Zozo.
The one from The Exorcist. Pazuzu, isn't it?
Pazuzu.
It is Pazuzu, yeah.
The incubus introduced himself as Orpheus and claims that he too was a bard.
Morpheus?
It's
morphin time. Morbid time.
He claims that he too was a bard during his mortal lifetime. Know that even from here on out, I am on your side. After all, our stories are oh so similar, are they not? After completing the contract, the details of which to still be determined IRL, Orpheus bids Lucius farewell and dissipates into a puff of steam that carries the scent of perfume. Lucius is free to finish exploring the villa and head home. The last room, he comes across a wide church-like chamber where the barbed devil is giving a sermon to the half-dozen mass Zariel worship. I figured that since the devils are extraplanar beings, I'll give this guy a small chance to detect Lucius' presence in the ethereal plane. Rolled a 20.
Not 20s.
It goes off to find the Duchess and whispers in her ear. I basically confirmed to the players that these guys are now expecting their arrival. Session ends there. For now, the part where Lucius player and I decide what the fuck kind of deal he just made. Before I get into that future vision, he's not allowed to change. I need to establish a little more context and talk about the side character I glossed over earlier. Way back in session 2 or 3, the party befriended a halfling who helped them win a bar fight and then drank with them throughout the night. His name is Willow, but he's mentioned as wearing this big rainbow-coloured patchwork coat, so everyone at the table calls him Joseph. He runs an apothecary selling magical cures and medicine, and is actually a seasoned druid. Pardon the pun. I don't get the
seasoned.
Not.
Yeah.
So he agreed.
I think my jokes about the lost child were funnier.
So he agreed to help them infiltrate the original murder cult's hideout. However, an assassin was tailing the group, got to him before he could rendezvous with the others. He escaped the attempt of his life, but wasn't able to join the party as he was paralysed from the neck down by a slow-acting poison. Party found him in Baldur's Gate. Sad excuse for a hospital after the hideout. Lucius was the one whose lesser restoration saved him from a slow death as an invalid. After the Tavern Fire incident, Joseph was hired by the Flaming Fist, who thought he might be able to use his nature wizard voodoo shit to figure out
here's a tree, man. Here's some leaves, do something with it.
Before their planned attack on the Duchess's villa, he met up with them and mentioned how he'd managed to reconstruct a splinter from the ashes of those Alchemist Fire barrels. Now he could identify the kind of wood, in the hopes that something might still have shavings from the same tree on their clothes. A hell of a long shot, but it's progress. He promises to go out with the party for drinks again once the job is done. Now for Orpheus's vision. Lucius saw Joseph poring over notes at his desk, the rainbow coat on a hook by the door. His expression turns to one of horror, as if a realization has just dawned on him. How could they do such a thing? His notes vary wildly off into different tangents, but the party members' names are circled multiple times. Just then, his front door swings open. The fighter enters with his sword drawn. Still dressed in his masked vigilante costume, Joseph whirls around in surprise. Please, let's just talk about the 3 long strides and a downward swing, followed by a spray of Joseph's blood. The vision ends. In case it isn't obvious, Joseph was due to discover the party's involvement in Tavern Fire, but not before the fighter kills him to protect the other PCs, and Lucius was allowed to do nothing to prevent. The terms of the contract after this were much simpler. Orpheus would bestow a portion of his own bardic prowess in order to make Lucius capable of venturing into hell to save his wife. In terms of game mechanic, he was able to pick an extra 2 bard subclasses to gain all of their ability, continuing to treat them as part of the subclass as he gained levels in the future. In addition, he would gain a custom subclass that was tailored to surviving in hell, including knowledge of infernal lore, protection from the hostile environment, and at higher levels, he'll even get to bypass their inherent immunity to being charmed. Orpheus himself, notwithstanding of course. In return, Lucius's soul will be forfeited either upon his death or the completion of his quest, whichever comes first. Orpheus guaranteed he wouldn't be thrown into a slave pit for all eternity, instead promising that Lucius's talent for the arts would be put to use, inspiring the legions of hell and creating works of art capable of tempting mortals to sin. He would get to save his wife from damnation and then live a relatively cushy afterlife in the infernal hierarchy. To Lucius, it seemed like a sweet deal.
That sounds, you know what that sounds like? See, whenever the communist takeover's coming, I'm going to be a psychiatrist and work in the performing arts. That's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be an inner party member, guys. I'm not going to work in the coal mines. Don't be silly. Do you think I'm meant for the coal mines? Think of my brilliant mind. Did you not know? I did arts in a community college.
I should also mention that Lucius's player was planning his own game where he wanted to introduce a running side quest of hunting artifacts related to the 7 deadly sins. He hadn't decided on their origin or how that quest would conclude, but it suddenly had the idea of Lucius being the one to create these things in the future, after being fully transformed into an infernal big bad evil guy. The player thought it was a cool concept, but that he'd wait to see how things pan out before making any concrete decision. It would be a crazy plot twist for the other 2 players though, since these games are running side by side. The raid on the Devil Worshippers' hideout was almost a success, with all of its inhabitants wiped out, including the Duchess, her son who the party failed to capture earlier, and several devils they had summoned to work for them. However, the fighter was killed by that barbed devil I mentioned earlier. He'd been going through his own character arc recently, and his personality was slowly but surely approaching something resembling normal. The party buried him and gave him a proper funeral, although they were the only attendees. But Lucius's mind is spinning. If the fighter is dead, how could Orpheus's future vision possibly come to pass? I wasn't expecting the fighter to die, and so I hadn't yet figured out what my ruling for this would be. Luckily, Lucius's player offered a suggestion that blew my mind. That blew anything I could have come up with out of the water. I have to correct the timeline. In his mind, he had no way of knowing for sure that if he was responsible for averting the future by allowing the fighters to die. If Joseph continued to live, would Lucius technically have violated his contract terms by accident? Moreover, there's still a matter of Joseph discovering the truth of the Tavern Fire. And so, in a twist that even I didn't see coming, Lucius snuck back into the fighter's grave after dark, dug up his body and stole his clothes and weapon, which were buried with him before covering his tracks. He waited for daylight, as it was present in the vision, before donning the vigilante costume and busting down Joseph's door, sword in hand. The halfling put up a fight and tried everything he could to escape, but Lucius finally put him down in the middle of the street with 6 consecutive crossbow bolts to the chest. The next day, the PCs are called in for questioning and were shocked to learn that one friend had seemingly returned from the dead.
Oh, that's really well put together.
There's more.
Oh, is there? Fuck off.
No, well, there's not. It's just the end. Anyway.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that's the story, bros. I could keep going if anyone's interested, but it feels like I've spammed this thread enough. These sessions taught me not only the joy of bamboozling my players with Infernal contract, but the joy of one of my players turning around and using that exact same contract to bamboozle me right back.
This is why I love demons.
Oh, I love that.
I love that. Honestly, that's very well put together. You know what? It's so refreshing to find a good story on TG.
Oh, I love
This is what
that.
I miss. I really do miss good stories on TG. So I see these sort of ones. I see when he comes to the end and it's like, oh no, that's perfect, and it just all comes together. And this is the other thing that gets me. You see, whenever when it comes to green text stories, I don't care if this is true or not. It's a role playing game anyway, so it's made up no matter what. If you want to embellish, you can go ahead and embellish it. But that was very well put together. I really enjoyed that, and I think that's actually one of the best examples I've ever seen. I like it.
I like the twist at the end. I really enjoyed that twist at the end.
That was very good. That was really good. Oh my god. You know what? Okay, so I talked about this in yesterday's video, or it might have been present. I don't know when they were getting uploaded. We've been working on a basic role-playing system. It's called Dice and Demons at the minute. The adventure that I'm putting into it, I don't want to spoil it, but it does involve demons and a cult and stuff like that. And there's, honestly, going through this, I was like, there's a lot of similarities that I've been working on.
Why did I not do this?
Why can my stuff not be as good as that? You know what I mean? That's what it feels like. But no, honestly, that was very good.
It was very good.
Very good. Very
but
good.
let us know what you thought about it down below. And while you're down there, check out the links because
Oh yeah,
30% off sale.
30%, guys. Honestly,
go and have a look. And once the
look, so we do
what the fuck is it called?
The gas station.
The gas. I keep forgetting what I keep going to say something else, but it's not.
Right, so the models are print on demand. They're not going to go out of stock. Whenever we need new models, we just print more. The books, on the other hand, we don't do print on demand. I probably will in the future, though. We've got a limited stock of
night shift one.
The night shift, we're not doing a second print of. We said it was going to be a one-off thing. So while stock's last, if you want it, you want it. It's 30% off.
Get it?
Just pretty much. If you're interested in it, I think I'm going to keep doing it like that because I did the Kickstarter. It was only a tenner, so it is, and then this is left over. So I always want to do like the Kickstarters, like cheap,
and then have this like full price.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Does that mean?
But anyway, let us know what you thought about this down below, and we'll see you in the next. Bye.